The Bloop. In 1997, NOAA hydrophones picked up an ultra-low frequency sound in the South Pacific, loud enough to be detected by sensors nearly 5,000 kilometers apart. They called it the Bloop. The sound matched the profile of a living creature. The problem, whatever made it would have to be several times larger than the biggest animal ever recorded, larger than any blue whale, larger than anything we have a name for. Scientists eventually attributed it to icequake activity, glaciers cracking on the ocean floor, but the original recordings still don't match any known geological event perfectly. The coordinates of the Bloop sit roughly 1,600 kilometers from the location H.P. Lovecraft chose for R'lyeh, the fictional sunken city where Cthulhu sleeps. That's a coincidence. Probably.
The Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, Swedish treasure hunters scanning the Baltic Sea floor found something on their sonar that had no business being there, a 60-meter circular object sitting at 90 meters depth, perfectly circular, with a 400-meter trail behind it as if it had slid to a stop. When divers reached it, electrical equipment cut out within 200 meters of the object, cameras, satellite phones, all of it. The anomaly itself appeared to be made of rock-like material with straight edges, right angles, and what looked like staircase formations. Natural rock doesn't make right angles. The leading explanation is a glacial deposit, rock shaped by ancient ice. Geologists are mostly satisfied with this. The divers who went down there are less satisfied. One described standing next to it as one of the most unsettling experiences of his life without being able to say exactly why.
Jacob's Well. Jacob's Well in Texas looks harmless from the surface. A clear blue natural spring about 4 meters wide. 8 people have died inside it. Below the surface, it drops 10 meters straight down, then opens into a series of underwater cave chambers extending over 300 meters horizontally. The chambers narrow, branch off, and dead end. Silt on the floor gets kicked up instantly and destroys visibility. Divers have swum into dead-end chambers and run out of air trying to find the way back. What makes it genuinely creepy isn't the deaths. It's the third chamber. At roughly 30 meters depth, the passage narrows to a point where a diver has to remove their tank to squeeze through. Several people have made it through. Several have gotten stuck. The ones who got stuck didn't come back out. Their bodies are still in there.
The Yonaguni Monument. Off the coast of Japan, 25 meters underwater, there's a structure that looks like it was built. Massive stone terraces, flat surfaces, parallel edges, right angles, steps, what appears to be a road, a triumphal arch. The structure is roughly 250 meters long, 25 meters tall, and estimated to be at least 10,000 years old based on when that part of the seabed was last above water. If it was built before any known civilization had the ability to build it. Most geologists say it's natural, sandstone fractured along fault lines that happen to produce geometric shapes. The problem is the sheer concentration of these features in one location. This many geometric coincidences in the same place has never been formally calculated. Nobody seems to want to. The SS Thistlegorm. In 1941, a British merchant ship called the SS Thistlegorm was sitting in the Red Sea loaded with military supplies, trucks, motorcycles, rifles, ammunition, aircraft parts, 2 locomotives. German bombers found it at night, 2 bombs into the ammunition hold. The ship went down in minutes. It sits at 30 meters depth today, perfectly preserved. The trucks are still in the cargo hold, the motorcycles still chained in rows, the rifles still in their crates. The 2 locomotives were blown clear by the explosion and landed upright on the seafloor, facing each other. Divers describe swimming through it as genuinely disturbing, not because of danger, but because of how intact everything is. A pair of boots sitting where someone left them in 1941, a gas mask on a hook, objects that belonged to people who were alive an hour before they weren't. The water preserved everything but the people. The Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is the deepest point on Earth, nearly 11,000 meters. Pressure over 1,000 times atmospheric. Complete darkness. Temperature just above freezing. Life down there did not get the memo. The snailfish, pale, translucent, completely eyeless, has been filmed at 8,336 meters, currently the deepest living fish ever recorded. It looks like something a child would draw if they'd never seen a fish. It swims in groups, which is somehow worse. The trench also contains sea cucumbers that move in herds across the seafloor. At depth, they make up 90% of visible animal life, massive, slow-moving columns traveling in the same direction for reasons nobody fully understands. In 2020, researchers found plastic waste at the bottom, single-use plastic bags, at 11,000 meters, the deepest, most remote, most inaccessible place on the planet, and we got there first.
The underwater forest of Alabama. In 2004, Hurricane Ivan uncovered something on the floor of the Gulf of Mexico, about 60 feet underwater off the coast of Alabama. A forest, an ancient cypress forest, still standing, perfectly preserved under sediment that had buried it for over 60,000 years. The trees were so well preserved that when divers cut into them, they still smelled like fresh cypress, still solid, still structurally intact after 60,000 years underwater. The forest is full of life now, fish, eels, crustaceans living in and around trees that were alive before modern humans reached North America. Divers describe it as beautiful and deeply wrong at the same time. Ancient trees standing upright in the dark, perfectly preserved in a place they have no business being.
Point Nemo. Point Nemo is the most remote location on Earth. The nearest land is over 2,600 kilometers away in every direction. The closest humans to it at any given moment are usually astronauts on the International Space Station, passing 400 kilometers overhead. Space agencies use it as a controlled crash site for decommissioned spacecraft. Over 300 pieces of space hardware have been deliberately crashed here. Satellites, rocket stages, cargo ships, pieces of the original Mir space station, they sit at 4,000 meters depth. Nobody has ever dived to Point Nemo, which means there is an entire graveyard of human technology at the bottom of the world's most remote ocean, completely unseen in permanent darkness. Hundreds of pieces of hardware that were once in space, now on the ocean floor, slowly being colonized by deep-sea organisms that have never encountered metal before.
The underwater river of the Black Sea. The Black Sea has a river running along its floor, a real river with a current, rapids, waterfalls, and riverbanks. It flows for nearly 60 kilometers and would be the sixth largest river on Earth by volume if it were on land. It exists because water coming in from the Mediterranean is saltier and denser than Black Sea water, so it sinks and flows along the bottom as its own distinct body. It carves channels, it has a floodplain, it creates underwater waterfalls where it drops over ridges. Almost nothing lives in it. The water is so dense and oxygen depleted that things that fall in don't decompose. They just sit there, preserved on the banks of a river that has no business existing. Ancient ships have been found along those banks, perfectly preserved, still upright, cargo still on board, untouched in the anoxic darkness for centuries.